This might be the hardest build guide I've ever had to make, not because Chiori is necessarily difficult to build, but because she's so incredibly garbage, which legitimately hurts me to say because I really like Chiori and I want to play her on field and do all these things with her, but it's just not a good idea. But I will get more into that later. First, let's jump into how to set up your Chiori. Starting with her talent priority, you're going to want to level her skill first because this is where most of her damage is going to come from. Then after you're done leveling that, you can level up her burst because this is also a pretty solid source of damage. Then you can level her normal attacks last. Realistically, you are probably never going to use her normal attacks unless you are forcing her into an on-field role, which I don't really recommend, and I'll get more into that later. Now for her weapon options, obviously her signature Oraku Misagiri is her best in slot. It buffs her normal attacks and gives her bonus elemental skill damage, which is something that you really want on Chiori. But you can also use stuff like Primordial Jade Cutter, Mist Splitter, Wolf Fang, Summit Shaper. Those are all really good options. Now when it comes to her artifact setup, you can either use 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams, or you can use 4-piece Golden Troop. Either one of these is going to be a really solid pick for her, and the difference between the two is pretty marginal, so I would just use whichever one you have better substats on. Now when it comes to her main stats, you want to go crit rate or crit damage circlet, geo damage bonus goblet, and a defense sands. You don't want to go attack sands even though she's split scaling because her defense scaling outweighs her attack scaling. Now here is where we get into the really annoying stuff about Chiori. Her C1. She is such a C1 bait, it's actually crazy. First of all, this gives her turrets even more range, and it will summon an additional one without you even having a Geo construct on the field. So obviously, this is a really nice bonus to Chiori, but that doesn't even come close to her C6. This is where the big problems start to reveal themselves. After triggering the follow-up effect of the passive talent Tailor-Made, Chiori's own skill cooldown is decreased by 12 seconds. This alone is a massive deal because Chiori's skill has a ridiculously long cooldown. It's like 14-15 seconds, which is just entirely too long. You can complete an entire rotation of your team, and Chiori's skill will still be on cooldown. Also, her C6 gives her a normal attack boost equal to 235% of her own defense. Chiori legitimately needs this C6 if she wants to be a good, usable on-field, because the rest of her kit does not mesh well together without that C6. And I will show you exactly what I mean by that. So here's Chiori. If I use her skill, obviously you can see 14.5 second cooldown. That's absolutely insane. But here's the part that's really annoying. And I kind of touched on this in my last video about Chiori, talking about how her kit doesn't make sense. If I use her skill once, I obviously get the Geo Infusion, which would make you think, okay, this character wants to be an on-field DPS and is supposed to be good at being an on-field DPS. But Chiori is not good at being an on-field DPS and is significantly better at being an off-field, because if I use her skill and switch off with her skill, I now have this little thing floating around Bennett. That is the tapestry buff. So whenever I use normal attacks with that buff on, her turrets will deal damage equal to that of her skill, which is significantly more damage than she will ever do with the Geo Infusion on field. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The infusion in her kit is just bait. It's only there to make you want to on-field her and then realize in order to do so, you have to make her C6. That isn't to say she isn't playable on field without a constellation, but she is extremely clunky to play on field without that con. Because in order to maximize her damage as an on-field, you have to switch off to get the little tapestry buff and then just keep auto-attacking with Chiori, because this will do more damage than if you were to leave her on field with the Geo Infusion. So she's really clunky and annoying to play on field because the game sort of tunnels her into this off-field sub DPS role. It's like the on-field part of her kit is there, it's just really half-baked, and to make it work super well, you have to get her C6. So here are the stats on my Chiori. She is 70 over 213, which is a really solid crit ratio. She's using her signature weapon, 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams, and she's triple crowned. So here is a side-by-side comparison of the DPS between her using her infusion and using the switchback method. It's pretty apparent which one is better. And this is just the unfortunate truth. Chiori can be an on-field at C0, but she's just going to be extremely clunky and annoying to play. But yeah, that is the quick and straight to the point guide on Chiori. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but I will see you guys in the next one later.